Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Hey, Tiffany. Well, I am very happy that we got some rain last night. Haven't had any in a while. So,
Yeah, and you're in Pennsylvania.
yep, yeah, South
Mhm.
PA. And it's crazy. Like some people in the county got virtually nothing. Other people got 5 inches, but I think we got like an inch. Still better than nothing.
Wow, and you guys, so you're saying you haven't had a bunch.
We haven't had much rain. No, I mean I'm having to water the containers like every 3 to 4 days. So.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, can you tell us about yourself and your business and your work?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Mark Highland. I started the Organic Mechanic Soil Company in 2006. So it's been a while, but um, I'm a plant person and I'm passionate about soil, and that's why I started the Organic Mechanics.
Mhm.
Um, and it's an organic potting soil company based in southeastern PA. We ship
Mhm.
all.
Wow. Yeah, I came across you guys in Whole Foods in because I'm in New Jersey,
Hmm.
and I was impressed by the fact that they only had you guys. Is that like intentional?
Yeah, yeah, we've been with Whole Foods for a long time. They started buying our first year in 2007, and they've supported
Oh,
us ever since then. And yeah, they're a great customer partner. Um, but we sell at all the other co-ops everywhere through a distributor. So even if you don't shop Whole Foods, you can find it at a local co-op anyway, or a garden center.
right. And you guys, as you mentioned, you ship directly. So that's
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. There's certainly the website and all that. But there's a lot of retailers, and our website has this where to buy page. You just put in your zip code. It'll show you places on the map that are close to you. Yeah.
oh great. Cause I'm in the Northeast. You're more west, a little bit more west than I am. So right. So, cause you say you're by Pittsburgh-ish.
What? Oh no, I'm Chester County, so we're real close to Longwood Gardens. If you know, have you
No.
Oh, Tiffany, you got to go to Longwood. It's awesome. It's beautiful. I mean, it's like formal. Well, it's really cool. It's really cool. I highly recommend going to Longwood, um, and all the other public gardens of the area. But
And am I right? I saw in the back of the pamphlet you sent that it was you're in what was it, Rockefeller Center, you're in a thing and they use your soil in a sculpture or something that's there.
yeah. So that project was super fun. It's called Split Rocker. So it's a
Mhm.
sculpture, a living sculpture, and it's about 30 feet tall and 30 feet wide. Has 50,000 annuals on it,
Wow.
and 3 truckloads of soil in the sculpture. And yeah, we were just super proud of that project. It was that particular one was installed in 30 Rockefeller Center in New York in the summer of 2014.
Hmm.
And there's a permanent one on display at a museum in Maryland called the Glenstone Foundation. And it's permanently on display there. But yeah, it was super fun working on that project.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do, soils for gardeners, right?
Mhm.
Also work with landscape architects and landscape contractors on jobs and projects. So a little bit of everything.
Okay. And so then we're gonna get into just so everybody knows if you're watching the visual part, right? His background that he has. Can you explain the background that you have?
Yeah, so basically it's seedling roots. So these are actually little seedlings that I grew this year that went in the garden, and I was taking a shot of the roots, and I was like, well, that'd make an interesting background. So, for all these Zoom meetings and such.
Yes, it's appropriate. Yeah. So can you explain? So this whole thing is just going to be a casual conversation. Anybody that's followed me on social, my blog and stuff, you've known that I've dabbled. Well, last year was the first year that I dabbled in gardening outdoors. And then this year we put in some raised beds and stuff. So it's like progressed. I feel like having house, so it all started with house plants just in general with me. Then it was
Mhm.
like, oh, what can I grow that I can eat? And then it kind of snowballs from there. I feel like it does that for a lot of people, this whole thing.
Yeah.
so so that's what that's how I came across your soil. Well, first it was because of the soil that I was using in the plants inside, because you guys have a variety of different soil blends. And then it was like, oh, I like that. I like the soil. I would love to use this in the garden too. So, and I did, and that's how we kind of connected. But can you please explain to a lot of people, because some people may be new houseplant owners or maybe new, container gardeners or whatever it is.
Mhm.
One of the biggest questions I get asked is, what's the difference between dirt and soil?
Mhm.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, for sure. Because we all grow up with these words and but the way I always talk about it is kind of like, okay, so dirt is the stuff underneath your nails after a good time gardening, right? And dirt is the stuff that you tracked into the house on your shoes, and mom or grandma or whatever would yell at you for that, right? That's like kind of like so soil. So when I talk about soil, I mean I'm talking about the soil that is outside in the ground in our gardens, and that soil, which is it's everywhere. That soil has minerals in it, right? So it's sand, silt, and clay. So those are all rocks essentially, different sizes, but sand, silt, and clay in soil. And then the other stuff that's in soil is just water, airspace, and organic matter. Okay, so the organic matter, you can see that in a topsoil based on how dark the topsoil is, right? The darker the topsoil, the more organic matter is present there. And the opposite is true too. Like sandy soil near the beach doesn't have a ton of organic matter in it generally. But so that's like the basic difference. So when we look at potting soil, right, you're buying something at the store for your house plants, for your gardening needs. Um, those bags are a bit more confusing. And, I'll just say that technically it's all potting soil, soil-less media. So the stuff we buy in the stores for our gardening needs in containers, whether it's house plants or on the patio or whatever, those potting soil bags, there's no actual soil in them. And it doesn't matter if it's potting mix, potting blend, potting soil, even garden soil, sometimes even soil amendments don't have any soil in them whatsoever, but they do have a lot of other good stuff in them, right? So they have, depending on the mix, most potting soils are peat moss, pine bark, perlite, and vermiculite. And perlite's the white stuff in the mix. Vermiculite's the stuff that kind of looks like mica or fake gold or something, fleck. Um, and really cheap potting soils will have styrofoam pellets instead of the perlite. But we at Organic Mechanics use some different ingredients, and we use compost, coconut fiber, worm castings, rice hulls. We use the pine bark because it's part of the nursery industry and it's a good product. And then we customize blends from there, just depending, right? And when you're looking for a potting soil, a soil to do your gardening with, it pays to go to a local garden center. They're going to have the best selection, and you can look at all the different types, because there'll be a type that's kind of specific just for like indoor house plants, and there'll be a type that's more specific for outdoors. And usually those outdoor container mixes, potting soils have better drainage, right? Because they're going to be watered more by the rain or whatever. And the more you get into houseplants, the more that you know that actually some houseplants prefer a more chunky mix compared to others. And that's like getting super soil nerdy about like houseplants and soil and stuff. But in general, it's true. And in those cases, yes, you could use our container blend for the houseplants that prefer that more well-drained soil, right? So it's not always a one size fits all approach, but you can make most potting soils fit. Sometimes it comes down to watering and whatnot. But so the difference between dirt and soil is really just we're talking about potting soil, which is like containerized gardening, versus soil, which is in the ground if you have gardens in the ground outside. That's the big difference.
Right. I didn't even know there was a big difference until when I started down my rabbit hole of learning about plants and gardening and stuff. I happened to take I had this master class. The master class they have it's an app or something like that.
Hmm.
And there's a guy, his name is Ron Finley. They call him the
Okay.
gangster gardener,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've seen his stuff on Instagram. Yeah.
Right. And he was talking about like Lumi versus this other type of, like, I didn't know,
Hmm.
when it's just the different type, I guess. And that's when it
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't even, before that, I didn't even know that there was a difference. And so now when I go and look around, I'm like, oh yeah, I see that what you're talking about. And then now even
Mhm.
even what you were mentioning, I saw, like, when I would at first started and would buy like kind of cheaper blends, I would see the styrofoam and I'm like, this is not, I don't think this is right, and why does it smell like this? And, different things. And it would smell very, very chemically. That's not a word. Like very, very, very chemical. And it bothered me. Right. And so, like, when you say organic matter, can you explain that further for people who might not understand?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, the organic matter is in the soil, the ground outside. And it's basically, you can think of it as like anything that was a plant or was alive and it's breaking down. So,
Hmm.
it's everything from, it could be leaves, it could be anything you put in your compost, right? Once you've composted it down. And so organic matter is something that was alive at one point. And the function it does in the soil, organic matter holds water, holds nutrients, and is a source of food for microbes, the microbes in our soils, to break that stuff down, and they break it down into nutrients that are available to the plants, right? So, that kind of organic process is happening all the time in the soil. When we take care of our soil, it happens faster and better, right? And when we treat our soils organically and don't put pesticides and stuff like that down, because quite honestly, there's in the backyard garden, I can't think of a single thing I would use a pesticide on just because it's not worth it. And there's enough beneficial insects out there where something will come and take over. And I know it's super sad to like plant a bunch of tomatoes and then see one get early blight or something, which is a disease of tomatoes. It happens. Google can show you all the pictures in the world on that. But like, I had to rip a tomato plant out this year. I'm like, I'm not spraying anything. I'm just going to take
Right.
the plant out because it was susceptible. Okay, rip it out, and the rest of them are fine, right? So,
Mhm.
um, yeah. So I went off topic a little.
That's okay. I'm. You're giving me all sorts of questions for you to to ask you in a minute. But yeah, no, organic matter. I had to like, because I attempted at starting my own compost. That's my thing for next year, right? Like that's on my thing of getting better for that next year. I started it once, and then we have like a whole fencing issue, so I have to deal with that, right? So there's that. So but that's when I came across your compost blend to help with our soil that we did have, and so we do have, and but I had to learn what organic matter was, and that it really did make a difference. And you can hear my little
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Having a good
So
time.
yeah, that my oldest is trying to keep her quiet, but she thinks that's funny, right? Like so yeah, but I had to learn, what compost was and what organic matter it was. And then on top of that, like, I had to untrain myself, like, from all the things that I would see like other people do, because they would use pesticides and stuff. Because I went and I would like talk to other family members who I known had gardened previously, and they would be like, "Well, you got to spray it with this and spray it with that," and I'm like, "Well, that doesn't even go with how I live my life, like now." That's why I opted for your blends too, because it says it's for organic gardening, right? So even that kind of goes to the next question I have of what is the definition, I guess, of organic gardening, right? Because is there like a USDA organic gardening department and everything that you get what I'm saying?
Right. So, so I'm going to try to come full circle on that one. So, even our certified organic farms, have pesticides in their, repertoire that they can use if they need to, if a pest is getting out of control, right? You think about, these farmers, I mean, this is their livelihood. They have to grow these crops to feed themselves, their families, and then of course feed all of us. So, I mean, if something's getting out of hand, yes, there are organic pesticides you can turn to that are not the skull and crossbones, like scary stuff that had been used a lot in the 70s, 80s, and has been slowly phased out, which is good. But those things still exist too. Anyway, so there is a certification for gardening products, and it's called OMRI, OMRI, which is the Organic Materials Review Institute. So if you talk about, food, right, that's USDA organic. You see that seal on eggs, bread, it doesn't matter what it is, it's on there if it's certified organic. So in the gardening world, there's not like a certified organic thing, but there is OMRI, right, that organization I mentioned, and they are an independent third-party certifier of products. And so that means that they will list products that meet the National Organic Program standards, right, for a farmer. And so if you're using a product, it'll say on it, OMRI listed, it's a little logo, you can see it on packaging. And if you're buying that, you want to look for that if you want to be an organic gardener with your soils, your fertilizers, your pest controls, because that if it's OMRI listed, that means it could be used on a certified organic farm and still, keep your certification and everything. So that's an easy way to make sure that the product you're buying is organic. Because in the lawn and garden, world, at the garden center when you're buying products, it's kind of like that people can say whatever they want. And technically they could even say that the soil is organic because technically it's made from organic matter, because like even peat moss is organic matter and pine bark is organic matter. And so they can say it's organic, organically based, unless they're in California. California drops the hammer on that. They won't let you put that on there if it's not like certified organic. But, for the rest of us, it's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the basics of it, that there isn't really a governing body, and you do have to kind of read between the lines on some of the marketing stuff if it's not OMRI listed, because then it hasn't been checked by a third party to verify everything. So most of our products are OMRI listed. I didn't list everything. Kind of like cactus and succulent blend. Well, does that need to be OMRI listed? No one's growing food with that. And all of our products are made with the same ingredients. It's not like we buy in different ingredients. So
it's just different blends of them, like different amounts.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you change the ratios and it makes it better for, certain type plants, or like the planting mix, the compost blend. It's got lots of different composts in it, but there's no rice hulls, there's no perlite. So it's just, dark and earthy looking.
Yeah, it's really, really rich looking. It's really rich looking, which means it's good stuff. But it's I did notice when I would be shopping before, and it was very confusing in the garden center aisle. Like, this is organic, one would say organic matter, but this one, of course, they'll use the color green to make it seem like it's like super. That bothers me all the time. Like, just because the packaging is green doesn't mean that it's healthier, right? But that's a whole other thing. They'll make it's green, and they'll put nature in it somewhere, and then but that doesn't mean that it's for certified organic or could be used for certified organic gardening, which is a big thing. Especially, I'm big. You can choose not to. This just came up to my brain. I was just reading, and I shared about one of the other pesticides that had just been banned. They said they're going to ban it or something. Something. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a strong pesticide. So, the plant growers of the world are going to complain loudly about it, but it's a really strong pesticide, and it's been known to kill bees. It's a big thing for the bees, right? And it's not really about the honeybees. It's about the 4,000 native species of bees that we have that are super important in pollinating crops that are not in California, and plants, that are not in California, because California just uses truckloads and truckloads of honeybees. But so it's a bee killer. And anyway, so it's one less pesticide on the market.
Yeah, that's what I shared about. I read it came out, I think it was yesterday, and I shared about it. I'm gonna dig a little bit more about it, because I know that the EWG Environmental Working Group had been talking about it for quite some time. And then I was big about that. But yeah, I saw that. That just popped up in my head. But I I like now I'm having like this issue with okay, so I didn't even share this. I'm having this issue with I have kale and I have a lot of the brassica family, the things, right? And I guess it's the leaf miners that the white I'm assuming because it's the white butterfly, they come in there painting the things.
Yeah.
Is that them?
So that is a cabbage.
There we go. Oh, sorry. Can you say it again?
Cabbage looper.
Okay.
So the little white butterflies, they look pretty, and then they come and lay their eggs, and then you got the little green caterpillars that are all over them, chewing holes. And yeah, so there's two things you can do about that. One is if you're not squeamish, you just get out there and hand pick them, right? Put them in a little cup or something. I have a neighbor half a block away with chickens, so I can send one of the kids like, go feed these to those chickens. But if you don't, like, I just used to throw them on the sidewalk, and sometimes you would actually see a bird come down and grab them. But anyway, so yeah, cabbage loopers. And the other thing you can use is it's a product called BT. It's organic. So BT, it stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. That's the scientific name of a bacteria. And basically how it works is it comes in a bottle and you mix it up and then spray it on the plants, especially when they're young, right when they're getting started. And so you're putting this essentially bacteria all over the plant. Now that bacteria is not going to affect you or me, but if a caterpillar eats it, then the bacteria goes in their gut and starts producing all these compounds that essentially kill it. So it's a organic protection type spray that they use on a lot of crops actually. Anyway, so it's the same stuff that's in mosquito bits or mosquito dunks. If you have any on and you use that thing to control the mosquito, it's the same active ingredient.
Well, that's good to know because I went and I cut. I was taking the affected leaves off, right? I was cutting them, and then I thought I had got all of them, and that the leaves that I was going to harvest, which I harvested yesterday, that they were fine. But then my daughter bit into one, and one of the little she freaked out. She freaked out.
A little extra protein. Mm-hmm.
She freaked out.
Yeah, I know. And their eggs are white. It's really hard to tell an insect egg. I mean, I've looked at a lot of them. It's still hard for me. Google is our best friend. You can Google search, cabbage looper egg, and then they'll show you images of it. And you can try to match it up so you're not squishing the good guys, in the garden. But another quick trick is to because of mosquito dunks, right? It has that BT in it. If you use those in water in your watering can, then you got like the watering can full of the BT juice, right? And if you have any kind of fungus gnat issue on your house plants, you use that juice, and because that same bacteria will also kill the fungus gnat larva in the soil because that's where they breed. So you can do that. It takes a while to control with that, but it's a quick tip.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I've watched YouTube videos where they talk about the mosquito bits, and I use that for the fungus gnats. I've had less fungus gnats indoors since I've changed to stop overwatering, and then I had changed to more clay terracotta pots so that they would breathe more. And that has dramatically, cut down on the fungus gnats. But the first year, it was like out of control.
When you're getting started, you want to love those plants so much. You need water every day, little plant. And they really want to wait. They want a good watering. They want it like to be like soaked. If you have like saucers underneath them to protect your house, it's kind of like you want a little bit of water to come through, but not a lot. And then wait until it's totally dry before you rewater. And the best way to check if the plant needs water container, just kind of scrape a little bit of the soil aside, get your finger in there, and when you pull your finger back out, you should feel moisture on your fingers. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what that means. I mean, like I'm kind of sweaty right now. Am I feeling moisture here? And no, that's not it. So the way to tell, just go to the sink, put your finger underneath the tap on the sink, and you'll get a drop of water on it. Now flick that off into the sink. Okay. So you flick that, then rub your fingers together. that is what moisture feels like in the soil, kind of. Once you do it a little bit, you totally get the hang of it. You'll be like, oh no, this thing's got moisture, or oh, that's pretty dry. I need to water it today. What, that kind of thing.
Wow, that may be the little snippet that I may use for social media, because that was like tremendously helpful. And I've never even had anybody put it to me that way. That is a very good tip. That was a great tip. I stopped putting my finger in. I bought a water meter rather, right, and stopped putting my finger in the thing when early on, I ended up with little yellow mushrooms in my houseplants because I think I was still overwatering, and I had the plastic containers, and it freaked me out completely, right? And so I stopped. Like, that's what I just had got like completely fumed out after the mushrooms had showed up. Can you, even though that's a soil thing, right? Can you explain more about that if you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, so mushrooms come from fungus, right? And it's true of all the edible mushrooms we eat and the non-edible ones we see in the, landscape and whatnot. And, in a good organic soil, you're going to have fungi present. Fungi are going to be there. But you don't necessarily want a bunch of mushrooms in your house, right? And typically, whenever I've seen them in my houseplants too. Those little yellow mushrooms. Generally speaking, they're eating the organic matter. So they are breaking stuff down, and technically they would go away over time. And it usually happened in the peat-based mixes that I would be using. Like, you buy a plant and then you don't repot it, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what's going on with this thing?" And then and it would have those mushrooms. So yeah, it's like a cycle of dry out that happens. So if the organic matter has a lot of peat in it, like if the pH is a little bit lower, it can happen more frequently. They will just get in and eat stuff and then form their mushrooms. But it happens when mix gets really, really dry, right? So if the mix gets super bone dry, the fungi are like, oh no, we need to reproduce because, it's drying out and we're going to, not be able to survive. And so they kind of just do that as like a reproduction mechanism. But generally speaking, if it happens to you, the best thing is just to kind of like take the plant out of the pot, kind of wash all that soil off. You just wash it and then repot it. It's the best chance you get getting rid of them.
Wow. Wow. It completely freaked me out for that plant. And come to find out, that plant was like on the outs anyway. It started dying, and so I just got rid of the plant. But wow, I didn't know that was actually like a defense mechanism. Is it kind of, you're saying?
Yeah, because when it dries out, it happened in all my plants when they would dry out really hard, and then I'd be like, oh, I forgot to water that. Whoops. And then if they were ones that I got from a store and hadn't had a chance to repot them yet in organic mechanics, it would happen. Or same thing if you repot and you forget to water and that center root ball dries out really hard, and then it can spur it to happen. But it happens from time to time.
Yeah.
The main thing is, you can get rid of it right away, and you just don't want. It's just like you don't want mold in your house. You don't want fungal spores in your house. Got to take that out.
Yeah. Even I find we get and this is just because we're talking about mushrooms and fungi. We get them in our grass, the lawn, and we're always like, don't pick those, leave those alone. And so it kind of freaks me out too. I don't know why fungi that, like, if I buy a mushroom and think I'm fine with it, but seeing it elsewhere, I'm always like, oh. So.
Well, that's just a human thing, like, because there's way too many of them that are poisonous, and there's a ton of them that are perfectly fine. And that Netflix documentary, Fantastic Fungi, I just watched it and it was awesome. I love going mushroom hunting. There's not a ton around here that are super edible and tasty, but occasionally you find some chicken of the woods or something else super good. Yeah.
I think that in theory I would do it, but I'm still just kind of freaked out about mushrooms sometimes. So I have a couple other questions. Could you explain, well, you kind of explained, because you guys have a container mix and you have a potting soil mix.
Mhm.
So you're saying essentially that somebody could use them, because people have asked me that too. Like they'll see both of them and they're like, okay, so I'm going to use this for my, Monstera, whatever it is. Which one should I buy?
Yeah, right. So, when you look at our soils, right, so they're all peat free. So there's no peat moss in them so that we're a bit more sustainable. And they have the rice hulls in them, usually in the container blend, right? So you'd see the container blend potting soil's got the rice hulls. Now, our premium blend potting soil does have perlite in it, which is the white stuff, right? It's expanded silica ore, right? So it's not as sustainable as rice hulls, but it's something we put in the product in the beginning. Because in the focus groups, the gardening ladies were like, well, "Where's the white stuff?" I just I had to put it in there. I had to put it in there. So um, anyway, the difference between the two, the premium blend holds more moisture. It's got more compost and more worm castings to it. So for plants that like that extra moisture holding capacity, that's the one you want for that. And the container blend is more well drained. So it's fine for any house plant or any plant that likes a little more well drained soil. And the container blend is great for outside. Now you can use the premium blend outside. A lot of people do. I do. It definitely changes the watering, and you have to get used to it. But once you get used to it, it's great because then you just don't have to water as much as some of the other soils that are out there, right? So I said earlier, like I water like every 3 to 4 days. Anybody, knows if you're gardening in peat-based potting soils, which is pretty much any other brand except for Organic Mechanics, you got to water that stuff every day at this time of year, or the stuff's going to die and be like all wilty and sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
Wow.
the basic difference between the two. And then, because not all again, we say on the bag, oh, this is for house plants for the premium blend. It's most of all house plants, but if you are growing something that needs better drainage, like arums and other, there's tons of plants that like a little bit better drainage. The container blend is totally fine. The premium blend will work fine too. You just really got to watch the watering. You don't want to overwater.
Okay. Okay. I knew that after a while, when I was noticing stuff, I know that there wasn't, not particularly with you guys, but some of it is just wording, I guess, to make
Yeah.
it easier for consumers too. And so and I know that that's always a big thing that businesses have to keep in mind, to make it easier for people to
Yeah.
buy it.
Oh my gosh, there's so many soils. There's African violet soil and rose soil and this soil and that soil, and there's some truth to that. But you can also modify your soil a little bit by adding, because at the garden centers they sell bags of perlite, they sell bags of orchid bark, they sell bags of they don't sell well if they have our rice hulls, they sell bags of rice hulls, but we use and so you can just add a little more if you need to like bump up the mix a little bit, make it more coarse, make it more chunky. Some of these really cool like plant, just like house plant, tropical plant garden shops that have popped up. They got like amazing selections of raw materials. So you can just go in and buy your soil, but you can also buy some special things if you need to mix something together. There's more and more of those stores popping up. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I did. I saw, so again, YouTube, some people make their own blends and they're like, make it blend and do this. And I was like, oh, that's a lot. Right. And so that's why I ended up purchasing it, because, in theory, I would love to, but then and then I couldn't find all the things too. And at least I would have to order it. And so I just ended up, I wanted to find a really good blend. And that's when I came across you guys. And yeah. So you also have a seed starting blend, right? And I noticed in the seed starting blend, like, can you explain what is the purpose of for a new person? Like, what would be the purpose of a seed starting blend?
Right. So it is helpful to have a blend that is designed just for seed starting when you're starting seeds. And it doesn't matter if you're starting, tomatoes or lettuce or kale or whatever it is for the outdoor garden or for your patio plants, or even if you're doing wheatgrass or anything like that. So a seed starting mix is typically a very fine mix, meaning small particle size, right? So small particle size mix, because most people start their seeds in pretty tiny little containers. And that doesn't matter if you're using like a 6-pack tray thing that you bought at the store or yogurt cups or whatever it is, they're generally pretty small. And so the smaller particle size seed starting blend, it helps it to hold moisture when the plants are tiny and growing in. So that helps you as the gardener and know like, oh, how much should I water these seeds, right? And they should be kept evenly moist. You know, you can get those seed starting kits that have the dome over the tray, and you can reuse those things forever. You know, I just give mine a quick 10% bleach spray wash down each year, and my trays to just keep reusing them and reusing them. And I have this bleach water in a bin in the basement, and it's been going on years now. And, you know, it still smells like, because I keep the lid on it, it's still, you know, still doing its job. Anyway, and they also make, you know, heat mats that you can put underneath them to raise the temperature of the seeds. So that can help with seed germination. And if you ever have a seed starting blend, you basically want to take that top off, the cover. Once the seeds have germinated and they're up, you want to have a good source of light for them too. If you're doing it in your windowsill, you definitely have to turn it because the ones at the window side will get more light. You know, there's pretty inexpensive lights for that. You only need a fluorescent, like they call them T5 lights at the store, that aren't that expensive and can do a lot of seedlings, a lot of flats. So, but the soil, it needs to be a fine particle size. And so our seed starting blend, it doesn't have any peat moss in it. And most of the seed starting blends are all peat moss and a little bit of perlite, fine perlite. But so it's a little different, but you know, we put a little starter charge of fertilizer in there. But with, you know, once those seeds are like 3 to 4 weeks old, they really should be going in the garden. You know, you kind of like time your seeds to when you can actually plant them, just get them out of the house and get them in the garden. And then you can just sow again if you want to keep on sowing successively. But, yeah, so after that, though, they're going to need some fertilizer. So that's why they need to either get out in the garden and get a little fertilizer to get started. But another pro tip about taking those little seedlings outside is there's a process where they call it hardening off, right? So you heard about that. So that really does pay. I mean, you know, I just take my little seedlings, like the 3 little seedlings that are in the background image, that are tiny. I just put them in a bigger pot with a little bit of soil. So I'll jam like 9 of them in a 4-inch pot with, you know, more soil. So they're all in there and they're happy that, you know, the soil is touching all the roots and they're growing. And then I'll take that outside to the porch, put it where it's going to get bright light, but not direct sunlight for like a week. And I'll maybe turn it once if I think about it, but, you know, and then generally they kind of root in a little bit, and that's fine because you're going to rip them all apart and plant them in the garden. But it's a way where I don't have to like take care of them when they're tiny. When they're tiny, if you don't water them every day, especially when they're hardening off, you're going to lose some. And
that's happened.
So hard, you know, to get them up. So that's my little trick, is I put them in a little bit bigger pot, kind of all together as friends, and then I just break them apart and plant them when it's planting time.
That's good to know. That's good. I mean, I've heard about hardening off and I've succeeded some, but then I guess it was, again, not explained as well as, I think that's the thing, is that I feel when I was starting to get into gardening, it seems that the people who have been gardening for a long time, they're used to a lot of these terms. But then for us, we need it, for some of us, we need it like explained in a way that's like way more like, how would you explain this to a 5-year-old? Like, I need to know the what do you actually do? And that's why I really find helpful videos of people watching people as they're gardening, so I can see what they're doing. So that I am a very visual person anyway, but to see what they're doing so that okay, that's what they're doing as they're saying hardening off. Okay. Okay, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I was just going to say another quick thing. So, you know, some people like sing to their plants and talk to their plants and whatnot, but right. And that's a plants respond to stimulus. But thing is, with seedlings as well, another thing I do every time I water, every time I'm down there looking at them, I just run my hand over the top of the flat, kind of like it's like, it's not hair, but you know, it's like you're running your hand across it and they're just moving a little bit. So you're not smashing them or anything. You're just kind of barely touching the top so they move. Any movement. Some people keep a little fan, like a little fan, oscillating fan that'll hit them. That just makes them stronger because they're wiggling, right? So that's part of like hardening off before they get outside in the wind and the sun and the elements. But anyway, so
that's good to know.
Hi, little plants, just like you're petting them. Hi. Yeah.
That's good to know. I do that with they say, I've heard somewhere do that with the I have this big fiddly fig, the Ficus lorata.
Okay.
They say to shake the thing because it would have shake the big stem because it's like huge. It's like 5'8", right? And so I like shake it because they say it would do that out in nature to make it stronger. So I guess it's the same thing.
Same thing. Yep. Yeah, a little bit of movement because the plants respond to that, and then they'll just start to like strengthen up their cells as they grow so that they're stronger. Yep.
Yeah. Wow, this was incredibly helpful. When I go back to this, I'm probably gonna have more questions for you. But yeah, this is incredibly helpful. Again, like I say that I found your videos. I know that they're older videos, right? But I found your videos that you had on your website very helpful too, because as I said, I like to watch what somebody's doing because it does help. Especially in the gardening. I don't know why, I think sometimes we think, and people have told me this, they think it's a lot more complicated than it is, but it took a while for me to get the confidence to be like, hey, this thing in general, most plants want to live, right? And they want to live.
Right, absolutely. And, honestly, everybody who's a beginning gardener, I don't know everything there is to know about gardening. I'm still killing plants, like if you're not killing plants, you're not really gardening. I mean, it's just trial and error. And every gardener that's been around a long time tell you the same thing. I've killed plenty of plants. What? I mean, you get better and you learn and you get better and you learn. And I mean, last year I was doing a lot of gardening and I finally had like lettuce that formed into actual heads. And I was just like, what? It's not just happening in California. It can happen. Anyway, I know you buy the farmer's market stuff. Sure, it's a head of lettuce, but it just looked like the sea of greens and I just cut it and we'd eat it. It was fine.
Yeah, that's what I got outside. That's another thing that I was really, really amazed about. Like, it's not forming into these like perfect things. Like, how do they do that? I don't get how they do that.
A single seed and a single cell. That is the trick. Don't leave two plants. Leave one. It seems risky. It seems like it, but that's how it happened. And then you get one little plant, one little seed, and then if it has enough room, it'll head up.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I've not done that. Maybe that's
me either until this year, Tiffany. And I was just like, what? Yeah.
See, next year I have I'm writing all the things down that I want to do next year, and that seems to be the thing. And I guess that's why I'm kind of glad that I did get into gardening, because it is kind of building a community at this point, because they're like seeing like, what you going to do next year? What you going to do next year? What's the thing?
Always something more to do.
Yeah. They were asking me like when it was starting to get towards spring, they were like, what you going to be planting? And I was like, I don't even get my seeds yet. I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Yeah. And then eventually, it'll go into like, oh, I'm going to plant some plants for the, for the butterflies and the pollinators. And then like, it just keeps going, like.
Yeah, we literally said that today. We said that today. I was like, oh, we should, because we have a big sage bush in the front of the house. And they love them. I don't know. They love it. And I've never seen that many around here in that way. Like, and so we're like, maybe we should put one in the back, right near the garden bed, right? And because the zucchinis weren't, so I had to hand pollinate them this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more insects you're bringing in, the pollinators will just happen, and flowers are a great way to do that. And the flowers with the most amount of pollen, it's anything that looks like a daisy or a black-eyed Susan or a sunflower, where it has all the center and then all the petals that come out from there, right? There's tons of pollen in those plants.
Okay.
But any good garden center is going to be like, oh yeah, this is the pollinator section, and like you can just choose your color. I mean, there's so many plants out there, some beautiful native plants as well that do even more for those pollinators and such. But it's that gardening bug. It just like
it gets deep, and it's a big snowball.
I have 400 containers outside right now.
Wow.
I still rent. I haven't bought a place yet, so they'll all go in the ground. They're lifetime plants. Some of them are huge, but yeah, a lot of containers.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for this whole conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure other people will too. Can you tell us where we can find more about you, about organic mechanics, everything?
Sure. Yeah. And thanks for, having me on. I hope we also get to talk more about soils and such in the future. And
Yes, we can
yeah,
definitely do this again.
yeah. And you can find our stuff. So organicmechanicsoil.com is our website. You Google search organic mechanics soil, it'll come up as well. We have the Instagram and all the other social media channels, but yeah, so and that's organic mechanics soil as well on Insta and Facebook, and spelled with an X on Twitter, organic mechanics. I don't do anything on Twitter, so
Yeah, me either. I'm not the best on Twitter. I go on there and I laugh about things and then I
yeah.
get off.
Yeah, it's just like a million things in your feed. So no, but Instagram, we try to do stuff on that frequently and interact with folks. But yeah, so the website has lots of info, has the learning center, like you mentioned, with all the articles and videos. And yeah, some of them were done a long time ago when I didn't have any gray hair in the beard, and beard is a lot longer and this and that. But it spans the past 15 years. So
Wow. Yeah. No, yeah. And if anybody has questions, they can always direct them to me and then I could get them to Mark and you can do this again. It's cool
that's right.
because everybody has questions, all sorts of questions.
Yeah, keep
So
those top 5 list of questions or whatever, and then the next time we do this, we can address all your viewers' questions and talk about soils.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.